Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Zero Hour. I'm your host, Richard RJ Eskow. Like a lot of people, I'm still reeling from the revelation of the draft decision on reproductive rights from Samuel Alito. We'll be covering that in depth in this hour. I think the ramifications of this potential decision, this probable decision, this probable opinion, will become clearer and clearer as the days and weeks and months pass by until it becomes formal, assuming it does. In fact, that's going to be the subject of tonight's show. We'll talk with two leading attorneys in this area, one who has argued reproductive rights before the Supreme Court, and another who defends people at the most street level, you might say, who have been accused of the quote-unquote crime of managing their own abortion care and reproductive care. So I hope you'll stick around. This is a subject of almost immeasurable importance, not only for the tens of millions of women who will be affected, but as we'll be talking about in this hour, for all of us. And as I wrote last week on the day after this opinion was released, I cannot imagine what it's like to be a woman in the United States of America today. If I felt the blow of this draft opinion about overturning Roe v. Wade in the pit of my stomach, and I do as a man, I can only try to imagine what must have felt like to have one's own body assaulted, occupied, and colonized by the language that this opinion represents, which is likely to become established law in the United States. It's absolutely devastating. A lot of people, women especially, are comparing the moment they read this draft opinion to the moment they learned that Donald Trump would become president. And in a sense, that's a very real comparison, because the radicalism, the extremism of this opinion, the breathtaking audacity in which it takes power away from legal precedent and really from elected officials and public consensus is a major shift of power in the United States, and it's one we need to keep talking about. And as I reflected on this, I wanted to specifically speak to the men of what I call the new old order. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute, but I think if you're a man and you think this isn't going to affect you, you have another thing coming, because the fact is this represents a complete shift in the way we really view liberty, not the phony liberty that the right talks about, but real human autonomy and human rights. Now, a lot of people, and again, I'm talking in a way to you men, but of course to everyone, a lot of people are repeating the line that then Senator Kamala Harris used when questioning Brett Kavanaugh for his seat on the Supreme Court. Of course, he blatantly lied and said he considered Roe settled law, but anybody who was shocked by that is hopelessly naive. Kamala Harris asked Kavanaugh, can you think of any laws that give government the power to make decisions about the male body? To which he responded, I'm not thinking of any right now, Senator. Well, I can think of one, and it's relevant. There is a law that specifically addresses the autonomy of male bodies, and it's relevant here. The draft law, the law establishing the Selective Service, requires all men of a certain age to register for military conscription. Now, I registered for the draft. It was during the Vietnam War. I didn't burn my draft card. Me being me, my form of silent protest was losing my draft card, so I couldn't burn it. But the fact is, the draft was a bizarre experience because you were basically being told, and by the way, I don't compare it in horror to reproductive rights, because it didn't invade the very interior of the body in quite the same way, but you were being told your body could be used as an instrument of war against your will. Your life could be taken against your will. I had the surreal experience of actually watching a drawing on television to see whether I would have a high or low draft number, whether I would go and fight and risk death or not. And I turned out to have a very low number. I didn't go. But the draft hasn't been used in many years, of course, but the law is still on the books. Why hasn't it been used in many years? I would say because it affects men, and men have more political power than women. Still, it allows the government to take possession of men's bodies and use them, as I said, as instruments of war. Now, the draft, as we knew it during Vietnam, could be called part of the old order. Men fought for the state, and when they returned home, if they returned home, they were expected to work for wages that supported the economic system of capitalism. Women were expected to stay home and breed for the state and then raise the children that they thus produced. And for men and women alike, you played your role or you paid the price. This is the order they're bringing back. So men, if you're complacent about this, I warn you, this is what I call the new old order, and it will get all of us eventually. But as always, women and vulnerable populations of every kind are the tip of the spear. Now, the people who are doing this call themselves pro-life, but you can't be pro-life as you clamor for war, as you support policies that drive up poverty, as you deprive people of medical care and a livable way of life. You can't be pro-life and call down death. But this is what they are doing, and this is what the radicals represented by Alito and the Supreme Court majority are pitching. They are the people who preach the right to life from the moment of conception until the moment you're born Muslim or dark-skinned or poor or female. So all you men who are shrugging this off, you better think twice. Unless you're privileged, they'll devour your life too. You can't be anti-woman and pro-human. Some men may experience a kind of pyrrhic pleasure at the chance to mistreat women even more, but at what cost? I'm telling you, watch out. They'll make a barbarian of you soon. It may sound good, but you're not going to be a general sitting in a tent. You are going to be a foot soldier lying in the mud. But look, I apologize. This is me, a man, trying to understand how it must feel to be a woman right now. Even the draft wasn't the same. Sure, we could die. We could be physically violated by bullets or bombs and be helpless to prevent it. But the intimacy of women's subjugation, its linkage to the physical human core, that I can't even picture. I can only empathize and support and fight. So I ask you, where are the Democrats in all this? Lofty sentences about political norms and senatorial decorum are the hollow talk of hollow figures in marble hallways, living statues who just sit and wait while the other side acts. They've chosen to become symbols, not living actors in a flesh and blood drama, but it's time to act. We must act now. The other side is acting, and it's acting with rage. The Democrats in Washington or somebody should be demanding that the courts be taken back from the anti-democratic minority. This is the battle we must fight. This is the line we must draw. And yet too many of them are just waiting for someone else to come up with another plan. Well, let me tell you, this isn't complicated. The time is here. The night has fallen. The walls have been built around us. The barbarians are here, and it's time for us to fight back peacefully, but forcefully and relentlessly with everything we have. We'll be right back.